See, some moves are pretty quiet. This was not one of them. When India sent two of its absolute top officials to Moscow, it sent a really clear message to Washington. We're not going to be intimidated. So what is really going on here? Because on the surface, the timing of this visit, it seems, let's say, deliberately provocative. It has definitely sparked a storm of speculation. I mean, with the US being so loud about isolating Russia, why would India's most senior ministers be heading to Moscow right now, of all times? And look, we're not talking about some junior diplomats here. These are two of India's most powerful officials, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Minister Jaishankar. Sending them both at the same time signals this is not just some routine meeting. No, this is a serious move with a very, very deliberate message. Now, this visit didn't just come out of nowhere. It actually followed some incredibly sharp accusations from Washington that, really set the stage for this entire drama. And the accusation itself was, wow, incredibly blunt. Stephen Miller, who's a senior advisor to Donald Trump, he really did not mince words. He came out and publicly claimed that by buying Russian oil, India was, and I'm quoting him here, directly financing this war. So Miller's case against India basically rested on a few key complaints. First, he pointed to India buying just as much Russian oil as China. Then, he made some really serious allegations of cheating on immigration policies. And he also complained about what he called massive tariffs on U.S. goods. And all of this, he argued, it all added up to one thing. India was acting like a false ally. So, with rhetoric that hot, you'd be totally forgiven for thinking the relationship between the world's two largest democracies is just collapsing. But is that what's really going on behind the scenes? And this is where we see that huge disconnect between what it looks like and what's really happening. The myth, the story you see in the headlines, is that the whole relationship is collapsing. The reality, according to the source material, is that the core ties are still strong. This isn't some kind of strategic meltdown, it's a really high-stakes bargaining tactic ahead of a future trade deal. Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand that this tension is also being deliberately amplified online. You have malicious actors who are just supercharging this narrative with fake news, and it seems designed specifically to drive a wedge between India and the US. I mean, you'd see stuff like completely made-up quotes from Minister Jaishankar, or these false reports claiming India was about to review all of its U.S. relations. The source is really clear that this is targeted disinformation, and it's often spread by foreign accounts trying to exploit this political tension for their own reasons.
Okay, so if the relationship isn't truly collapsing, and this isn't about abandoning the U.S., then what was the real, tangible reason for this high-level visit to Moscow? What was actually on the agenda?
So what was the real agenda? Well, according to the source, it was focused squarely on defense hardware. The first goal was all about securing additional batteries for India's really powerful S-400 missile defense system. The second was to explore a potential purchase of Russia's next-generation Su-57 fighter jet. So this visit was about military procurement, not a diplomatic divorce. And these military goals, they really point to a core principle of India's foreign policy, something called strategic autonomy. This is basically the idea that India will pursue its own interests by making deals with whichever nation it needs to, whether that's Russia for defense systems or the US for trade, without being tied down or beholden to any single power. So the really crucial point here is that this isn't about picking a side between Russia and the US. It's about performing an incredibly delicate balancing act in a complex and, constantly shifting new world order. And really, what you should take away from this is seeing how a major power like India has to navigate a world where it needs strong functional ties with rivals like the US and Russia at the same time. It's a masterclass in maximizing your own country's benefit by, engaging with everyone. And that leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought. Does this kind of diplomacy mean that the old idea of permanent, unshakable allies is just over? Has it been replaced by a permanent, singular focus on what's best for your nation, no matter who you have to talk to? Definitely something to think about.